Greetings, fellow historians. Welcome to the Forbidden Codex of History, where we delve into the hidden, obscure, and unresolved mysteries of the past, exploring forgotten civilizations, enigmatic artifacts, unsolved historical events, and so much more. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe. Now let's delve into today's mystery. Long before the rise of classical Greece, before the glory of Sparta or the philosophy of Athens, there was another world, older, stranger, and cloaked in silence. A civilization lost to time, yet once so radiant it illuminated the cradle of European culture. A people without armies, yet powerful beyond measure. A society of labyrinths, priestesses, and sacred bulls, hidden beneath the ash of a cataclysm and the myths of a forgotten age. This is the story of the Minoans. They emerged on the island of Crete more than 4,000 years ago and built a society so advanced, so refined, and so enigmatic that even now we struggle to comprehend the full scope of their world. With sprawling palaces that mirrored the heavens and artistic achievements centuries ahead of their time, the Minoans shaped the very DNA of the ancient Mediterranean. They left behind no epic battles or grand conquests, only the traces of an enduring mystery. Their language remains undeciphered. Their gods are shrouded in forgotten rites, and their sudden disappearance still haunts the ruins of Knossos and the blackened cliffs of Santorini. Who were these people who lived in harmony with the sea and the sacred? What secrets were sealed within the winding corridors of their palaces and the rituals of their priesthoods? And why did this radiant civilization, at the height of its power, vanish from history almost without a trace? In this exploration episode of the Forbidden Codex of History, we descend into the sunlit shadows of the Minoan world. We will unearth the myths and decode the symbols. We will follow the footprints of their sailors, artisans, and priestesses through palatial ruins and volcanic ash. And we will ask the question still echoing from the depths of the ancient Aegean. Did the Minoans truly fall? Or were they erased? Let the journey begin. Chapter 1. The Discovery of a Forgotten World, Unearthing the Minoans. For millennia, the story of the Minoans lay buried beneath layers of myth, dust, and volcanic ash. Long before the rise of Athens and the legends of Sparta, an older, more mysterious civilization once thrived on the island of Crete. An advanced society that would be forgotten by history, preserved only in fragments of legend. The first echoes of this lost world came not from ancient records, but from the whispers of Greek myth. The tales of King Minos, the Minotaur, and the Labyrinth had long fascinated scholars and poets alike. But for centuries, these stories were considered nothing more than fiction, symbolic allegories of power, tyranny, and conquest. That changed in the late 19th century. In 1878, a Cretan merchant named Minos Kalokairinos made a startling discovery while excavating a mound near the modern town of Heraklion. He unearthed the remains of what appeared to be a massive, ancient structure. Walls, staircases, and curious pottery. But due to political instability under Ottoman rule, further investigations stalled. The mystery remained buried. Then in 1900, a British archaeologist named Sir Arthur Evans arrived in Crete, drawn by rumors of ancient ruins and mysterious symbols etched into seals and stones. Fascinated by the myth of the Minotaur and the Labyrinth, Evans purchased the land at Knossos, where Kalokairinos had begun his work. What he found would rewrite history. As Evans and his team dug into the Cretan earth, they uncovered the sprawling remains of a massive palace complex, unlike anything known in Europe at the time. Corridors, grand staircases, throne rooms, courtyards, and storerooms emerged from the soil, revealing an intricate multi-level structure that seemed to echo the labyrinth of legend. Evans named the civilization that built it the Minoans, after the mythical king Minos. But what he found wasn't just myth. This was a real, highly developed culture, predating classical Greece by over 1,000 years. Artifacts began to pour from the ruins, intricately painted pottery, golden jewelry, and exquisite frescoes that defied expectations. The palace walls were decorated with vibrant scenes, leaping bulls, dancing women, dolphins gliding through azure waters. These were not the grim warriors or tyrants of Greek legend, but a society that seemed to celebrate life, nature, and ritual. Even more astonishing was the discovery of a mysterious writing system, later dubbed Linear A. Etched into clay tablets and seals, this script remains undeciphered to this day. A second script, Linear B, would eventually be found and decoded, revealing early Greek. But Linear A, the true Minoan language, remains an enigma, guarding the secrets of the civilization's thoughts, laws, and rituals. Knossos was only the beginning. Across Crete, more palatial centers emerged. Phaistos, Malea, Zakros, each a hub of trade, religion, and governance, all sharing a remarkably consistent architectural and artistic style. These were not isolated city-states, but parts of a coordinated, complex culture that flourished around 2000 to 1450 BCE. And yet, unlike the militaristic kingdoms of the Near East or the fortified citadels of Mycenaean Greece, Minoan palaces were largely unfortified. Their focus seemed less on war and more on ceremony, commerce, and communal life. How had such an elegant society come to dominate the Mediterranean, and why had it been forgotten? As more evidence was unearthed, a new picture began to emerge. The Minoans were master seafarers, artisans, and engineers who influenced the world around them, but left few written words. Their legacy survived not in chronicles but in myth. As Evans sifted through the ruins of Knossos, he realized he was not just uncovering an ancient city, he was stepping into a world that had existed in the shadows of history, waiting to speak once more. Chapter 2. Life in the Minoan Age, a glimpse into a forgotten paradise. To walk the ruined corridors of ancient Knossos is to step into a dream, one that whispers of forgotten gods, vanished splendor, and a people who may have danced with bulls and communed with the divine. In the heart of Bronze Age Crete, a civilization flourished unlike any other in the ancient world. One not founded upon war or conquest, but upon harmony, with nature, with the sea, and perhaps with something greater. At the center of this world stood the Palace of Knossos, a sprawling architectural wonder often described as the world's first true city, with over 1,000 interwoven rooms, winding staircases, sunken courts, and hidden passages. The complex inspired tales that would echo into myth. It was this labyrinthine structure, complex, confusing, and impossibly vast, that likely gave birth to the Greek myth of the labyrinth, home of the monstrous Minotaur. But here in Minoan Crete, the labyrinth wasn't just legend, it was real. The palace was designed less like a fortress and more like a living organism, breathing in sunlight through light wells, ventilating through strategically placed shafts, and connected by corridors that mimicked the flow of natural paths and sacred geometry. There were no fortified walls, no signs of militarism, only a belief that their world was ordered, harmonious, and sacred. Life in this age was full of color, movement, and ceremony. The frescoes that survive on the palace walls show scenes of everyday life and ritual with astonishing beauty. Vivid reds, ocean blues, and golden hues bring to life a society that celebrated art, nature, and the rhythms of the cosmos. And among the most iconic and enigmatic images is one that has captured imaginations for generations, the bull-leaping fresco. In it, we see a young figure, perhaps male, perhaps female, grasping the horns of a charging bull, vaulting over its back in a feat of both athleticism and grace, before landing safely on the other side. This was not sport, but ritual. The bull, sacred to Minoan culture, symbolized fertility, strength, and divine energy. To leap over such a creature may have been an act of religious ecstasy, perhaps a rite of passage, or even a communion with the gods. And it may not have taken place in isolation. The central court of Knossos, large, open, and surrounded by high balconies, may have served as the theater for these sacred spectacles, witnessed by nobles, priestesses, and the royal court. In this society, women were not hidden behind palace walls. They stood at the heart of it. Minoan frescoes show women richly dressed, participating in religious rituals, and occupying positions of apparent authority. Some scholars believe that priestess queens, serving as avatars of the great goddess, may have ruled over Crete in a theocratic system where divine feminine energy shaped politics and worship alike. Minoan religion revolved around nature, fertility, and sacred cycles. Shrines were placed in caves, on mountain peaks, and within palace sanctuaries. The most powerful deities were female. The snake goddess, bare-breasted and holding serpents in her hands, symbolized protection, regeneration, and the chthonic power of the earth itself. Alongside her, symbols like the double axe, labris, and horns of consecration adorned walls and temples, marking spaces as sacred and powerful. Despite its elegance, Minoan Crete was also technologically advanced. Plumbing systems, including terracotta pipes, provided running water and even flushing toilets. Their architects understood airflow, light optimization, and seismic stability. It was a civilization that mastered both the poetic and the practical. Yet despite all this splendor, much remains hidden. Their script, linear, still defies decipherment. Their spoken language is lost. Their rituals remain half-glimpsed, their gods unnamed, their prayers unheard. The Minoan Age was more than a civilization. It was a world, a living myth, etched in sunlit stone and shattered fresco, waiting to be pieced together. If you like this, remember to hit the notification bell to get more knowledge of the past. Chapter 3. Masters of the Sea, the Minoan Fleet, Trade, and Power Without War. The Minoans didn't build empires with legions or spears. They did it with ships. By the 2nd millennium BCE, Crete had become the beating heart of a vast maritime network that stretched across the ancient Mediterranean. From the Nile to the Aegean, from the coasts of Anatolia to the Levant, Minoan ships carried goods, ideas, and influence with astonishing efficiency. This was not an empire of conquest. It was a thalassocracy, a sea-based realm whose power stemmed from trade, diplomacy, and strategic geography. The Minoans were masters of shipbuilding. Their sleek double-ended ships were fast, maneuverable, and capable of long-distance travel. Frescoes and carved seals show them adorned with decorated prows, crewed by elite sailors and traders. These vessels didn't just hug the coast, they commanded the open sea. Archaeological finds of Minoan pottery, tools, and jewelry have been uncovered as far afield as Egypt, mainland Greece, Cyprus, Syria, and even Italy. In return, they imported tin from Anatolia, gold from Nubia, and luxury goods from the Near East. Their most prized export, Minoan olive oil, wine, saffron, and exquisitely painted pottery, each a symbol of refinement and cultural prestige. But trade was only part of the equation. The Minoans cultivated diplomatic relations with powerful neighbors, including the Egyptians. In fact, Egyptian records from the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III mention a mysterious people from the islands in the middle of the Great Green who brought gifts and tribute. Many believe this referred to the Minoans. Some frescoes found in Egypt even depict Minoan-style figures, men with curled hair, flounced kilts, and ritual objects, offering gifts in ceremonial processions. What's striking is what's absent from Minoan culture: widespread signs of warfare. Unlike the Mycenaeans and later Greek states, the Minoans left no evidence of massive fortresses, weapon stockpiles, or violent conquest. Their palaces were not walled, their settlements not built for siege. It appears that they relied on diplomacy, wealth, and naval control rather than war to maintain their dominance. But that doesn't mean they were pacifists. Their navy, though elusive in the archaeological record, may have functioned as a kind of sea police force, deterring piracy and enforcing trade routes. Their power likely came from controlling the flow of goods and ensuring safe passage through the Aegean and beyond. Chapter 4. Sacred Symbols: The Religion, Rituals, and Mythology of the Minoans. The Minoans worshipped in a world where the divine was ever present, woven into the wind, sea, and soil of Crete. Unlike the later Olympian pantheon of classical Greece, Minoan religion was more primal, more elemental. Their gods did not sit atop a distant mountain. They danced in sacred groves, stirred in the depths of caves, and whispered through the crashing waves. At the heart of Minoan religion was the goddess, a singular divine feminine force that dominated their iconography and shaped their cosmology. She appears everywhere in their art, a serene figure with outstretched arms, bare-breasted, flanked by animals, rising above mountains, or holding serpents in each hand. Scholars believe she represented fertility, the earth, and the cyclical power of life and death. Surrounding her were lesser deities, possibly male consorts or divine children, but it was the feminine divine that dominated Minoan iconography. This powerful symbolism suggests that Minoan society may have been matriarchal, or, at the very least, that women held significant religious authority. Priestesses, not priests, are most commonly depicted in sacred contexts, leading ceremonies, conducting offerings, and standing at the heart of their temples. Their places of worship were just as enigmatic. Unlike the towering temples of Egypt or Mesopotamia, the Minoans preferred peak sanctuaries, cave shrines, and sacred courtyards. Nature itself was holy ground. Rituals were performed beneath open skies or deep within the island's caverns, where echoes of chants may have once mingled with the sound of dripping water and the flicker of torchlight. This was not a passive deity. She was the mistress of beasts, the Earth Mother, the Snake Goddess, the Lady of Nature and Fertility, a powerful matriarch presiding over life, death, and rebirth. Unlike the later patriarchal Olympian gods of Greece, the Minoans appear to have centered their spiritual world around female divinity, suggesting a society where women held significant ritual, if not political, power. Priestesses are depicted leading ceremonies, bearing sacred vessels, or dancing in ecstatic communion. Temples and sanctuaries were filled with offerings, figurines, votive limbs, golden ornaments, placed in caves, on mountaintops, and in inner palace chambers. To the Minoans, the bull may have symbolized raw natural power, virility, and the cosmic cycle. Its horns, carved into stone altars and stylized throughout Minoan architecture as the horns of consecration, became one of the most enduring religious motifs of the era. In their mythology, the bull could have represented the divine masculine, a counterpart to the great goddess, enacting the eternal dance between death and renewal. And then there is the labyrinth. Deep beneath the palace of Knossos lies a warren of twisting passages, staircases that lead nowhere, storage rooms like crypts, and corridors that defy logic. It is from here that the legend of the labyrinth and the Minotaur was born. While the later Greek myth speaks of a half-man, half-bull creature kept imprisoned by King Minos, it may have originated in Minoan initiation rituals, performed underground, in the dark, within the winding bowels of the palace. To pass through the labyrinth may have symbolized a spiritual death and rebirth, a metaphorical journey into the underworld. The initiate would emerge changed, purified, and reborn. Some scholars believe that the myth of the Minotaur is a distorted memory of these rites, preserved through generations by those who could never truly understand them. Minoan religious life was rich with symbols and secrecy. The double axe, or labris, possibly a symbol of the goddess or of sacrifice. Sacred trees wrapped in ribbons, stone altars daubed with blood, and silent processions of priestesses disappearing into the inner sanctums of palaces. Ceremonies were likely timed to the stars, the solstices, and the agricultural calendar. Music, dance, and altered states of consciousness may have played a role in their ecstatic communion with the divine. Sacrifice and feasting were common elements of Minoan ritual life, but evidence of human sacrifice, while controversial, has also emerged. At Anemospelia, archaeologists discovered what may be the remains of a ritual killing, interrupted by a violent earthquake. If true, it hints at a darker, more complex spiritual world, one where the gods demanded more than grain and incense. Yet despite all that we've uncovered, no Minoan texts have been deciphered to explain these rituals in their own words. Linear A, the Minoan script, remains undeciphered, a silent script locked behind time. What we are left with are shadows, fragments of frescoes, statues with eyes forever fixed on eternity, and echoes of footsteps in labyrinthine halls where gods once walked. Was the Minoan religion a precursor to the mystery cults of later Greece, such as the rites of Demeter at Eleusis or the Dionysian ecstatic ceremonies? Did it influence the Greek myths of Theseus, Minos, and the Minotaur? Or even the image of the mother goddess across the Mediterranean world? We may never know for certain. But in the Minoans, we glimpse a civilization that saw no boundary between the human and the divine. Only thresholds to be crossed, rituals to be performed, and mysteries to be lived. And perhaps, buried beneath the volcanic ash and the ocean's silence, some of those secrets still wait, unseen, unspoken, sacred. Chapter 5. Collapse and Disappearance. The Fall of the Minoans. For centuries, the Minoans flourished as one of the most advanced and enigmatic civilizations of the ancient world. But by the 15th century BCE, their majestic palaces stood silent, their vibrant frescoes began to fade, and their once unrivaled influence mysteriously vanished. What caused the fall of such a prosperous and peaceful people? Theories about the collapse of the Minoan civilization are numerous, and none provide a complete answer. One of the most popular hypotheses centers around a cataclysmic natural event, the eruption of the Thera volcano on the nearby island of Santorini. Estimated to have occurred around 1600 BCE, this eruption was one of the most powerful in human history. It devastated the island, creating a massive caldera and triggering tsunamis that would have swept across the Aegean. Tsunamis, some estimated to be over 50 feet high, roared across the sea and smashed into Crete's northern coast. Coastal cities, ports and palaces were battered or wiped away. The once unstoppable Minoan fleet, central to their trade and power, was decimated. Without their maritime lifeline, the Minoans became vulnerable, exposed, and shaken. The ashfall from Thera choked the skies and poisoned the earth. Crops failed. Livestock died. Some researchers believe this environmental devastation plunged Crete into a slow economic collapse, while others argue the psychological trauma, interpreted as divine punishment, shattered the spiritual foundation of their society. But perhaps the most profound impact of the Thera eruption was not the immediate destruction, but the way it broke the rhythm of Minoan civilization. Cities like Akrotiri, buried in ash, yet eerily preserved, offer a snapshot of life frozen in time. Homes filled with vivid frescoes, pottery in mid-use, rooms abandoned in haste. It is as if the people had no time to return, or never dared. The connection between the Thera eruption and the Minoan downfall has long fascinated archaeologists. Some theorists believe this cataclysm may be the real historical inspiration behind Plato's tale of Atlantis, an advanced island civilization destroyed in a single day and night by fire and flood. Was Thera Atlantis? Were the Minoans the Atlanteans? While no definitive proof exists, the parallels are uncanny. Advanced architecture, peaceful society, maritime dominance, sudden destruction by natural forces. If Atlantis was more than a myth, the Minoans fit the profile hauntingly well. What is clear is that Thera was a turning point. After centuries of cultural brilliance, the Minoan world began to unravel. The palaces were rebuilt, but not as they were before. Something had changed. The art grew darker, the rituals more desperate. However, there is a significant gap between the eruption of Thera and the final disappearance of Minoan culture. The Minoans appear to have survived the immediate aftermath, even rebuilding and continuing for some decades, perhaps even a century. This raises a deeper question. What finished them off? Enter the mysterious sea peoples. These enigmatic maritime raiders began to appear across the eastern Mediterranean around the 13th century BCE, launching devastating attacks on coastal cities and powerful empires alike. They are recorded in Egyptian inscriptions as a confederation of sea-based invaders who came from the lands of the Great Green and were said to have caused the collapse of several Bronze Age civilizations, including the Hittites and the Mycenaeans. Could the Minoans have been one of their earliest victims? While no definitive record ties the sea peoples directly to Crete, archaeological evidence shows a sudden and violent destruction at several Minoan sites during this period. Palaces were burned, cities abandoned, and the once thriving Minoan trade networks disappeared. The style of destruction suggests conflict, possibly even invasion, rather than slow decay. Some historians theorize that in the wake of the Thera catastrophe, the Minoans became weakened and vulnerable to foreign aggression. The sea peoples, possibly composed of displaced warriors and seafarers, could have targeted Crete as part of their rampage across the Mediterranean. Another theory proposes that the Mycenaeans of mainland Greece, seeing an opportunity in Minoan weakness, launched a campaign of conquest. Around 1450 BCE, Evidence shows that Mycenaean influence spread across Crete, taking over palace administration and adapting Minoan cultural elements. Linear B, a script used by the Mycenaeans, begins to appear in place of the Minoan Linear A. Some scholars believe the Mycenaeans absorbed the Minoan elite, or replaced them entirely. Yet even under Mycenaean rule, the island eventually declined. By the end of the Bronze Age, Minoan culture as it had existed was gone. Its art, language, and religion lost or transformed beyond recognition. In the end, it may not have been a single event, but rather a perfect storm of disasters, natural calamity, foreign invasion, economic collapse, and political turmoil that led to the fall of the Minoan civilization. What makes this mystery even more haunting is the silence they left behind. The Minoans had no known written histories or epic tales to explain their fate. They left no tombs inscribed with their final moments, no monuments to warn future generations. They simply vanished, leaving behind their palaces, their frescoes, and a silence that still echoes through the ruins. But they left behind ruins, silent but eloquent. Frescoes of leaping bulls, intricate labyrinthine palaces, goddess figurines with serpents coiled around their arms, whispers of a once great people who ruled not through conquest, but through connection, masters of sea and spirit. The fall of the Minoans was not just the end of a civilization, it was the beginning of a mystery, a riddle written in ruins and undeciphered script. So what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Chapter 6. Echoes Through Time. The Minoan Legacy. Though the Minoan civilization eventually collapsed around 1450 BCE, its legacy continued to echo throughout the ancient world, and its influence still resonates today, even if we don't always recognize it. The decline of the Minoans remains a subject of debate. Was it the result of the volcanic eruption on the nearby island of Thera, modern-day Santorini, which caused widespread destruction and may have sparked economic and social collapse? Or was it the aggressive expansion of the Mycenaeans who eventually absorbed the Minoan culture, adapting their art, architecture, and religious practices? Or perhaps both, natural disaster and human conquest, brought about the downfall of one of the ancient world's most remarkable civilizations? What is certain is that while their civilization ended, Minoan ideas, artistic styles, and innovations lived on. Mycenaean Greece, the next dominant power in the Aegean, inherited much from the Minoans. Mycenaeans adopted Minoan art, pottery styles, and architectural concepts. The palatial complexes they built in the Greek mainland, like those at Tiryns and Pylos, were clearly influenced by Minoan designs, especially their intricate labyrinthine layouts and the use of large ceremonial halls. Even the Mycenaean writing system was influenced by the Minoan script. After the collapse of the Minoan civilization, the Mycenaeans adopted Linear B, a script that closely resembled the Minoan Linear A, though it was used to record an early form of Greek. This adoption of Minoan writing by the Mycenaeans allowed Minoan influences to endure in the language and record-keeping traditions of later Greek civilizations. But Minoan culture didn't just influence the Greeks. It left a mark on civilizations across the Mediterranean and beyond. The Egyptians, the Phoenicians, and even the Romans all encountered Minoan art, trade goods, and ideas. It is likely that Minoan influence helped shape the rise of Greek mythology, especially the stories of gods, goddesses, and heroes that would later form the backbone of classical Greek religion. One of the most enduring aspects of Minoan legacy is their artistic innovations. The frescoes and pottery that remain from their time demonstrate an extraordinary mastery of form, color, and symbolism. The Minoans excelled in the depiction of nature, and their art often focused on animals, flora, and goddesses, showing a deep connection to the natural world and the divine. Their famous frescoes, like the fresco of the dolphin or the Minoan throne room in the palace at Knossos, continue to be studied by artists and historians for their dynamic compositions and naturalistic style. The movement, the vibrant use of color, and the sense of life captured in their works would influence later Greek and Roman art. Minoan pottery too was groundbreaking. They were among the first to develop the use of the potter's wheel, which allowed them to produce incredibly precise, symmetrical vessels. Their pottery was often decorated with geometric patterns, marine motifs, and scenes from daily life. These pieces, once part of daily trade and commerce, have survived as fragments, giving us clues about the values and aesthetics of Minoan society. And while the Minoans may have disappeared as a distinct civilization, their cultural contributions did not vanish into history. When the Greeks developed the Olympic Games, many of the rituals and symbolic elements of the games can be traced back to Minoan religious practices, which were based on the worship of deities tied to fertility, the earth, and the cycles of life. The Minoan legacy is also present in the myths and legends of ancient Greece. One of the most famous stories, the myth of King Minos, the Minotaur and the Labyrinth, is a direct reflection of Minoan civilization, as the myth is believed to be based on the labyrinthine palace at Knossos. The tale of the Minotaur, a monstrous half-man, half-bull creature, might be a symbolic representation of the Minoan bull cult and their reverence for bulls as sacred animals, imbued with both fertility and power. Though much about the Minoans remains elusive, especially their language and religion, their legacy persists in the treasures they left behind, in their art, their architecture, their religious ideas, and their deep connection to the world around them. As we continue to unearth their mysteries, the story of the Minoan civilization is not just the story of a lost people, but the story of a culture whose ideas and achievements resonate through time, reminding us that even the most ancient of civilizations can leave a lasting imprint on history. Conclusion. Though the Minoan civilization vanished over 3,000 years ago, its impact on the ancient world remains significant. From its breathtaking palaces to its unique art and sophisticated society, the Minoans left behind a legacy that continues to captivate historians, archaeologists, and enthusiasts of ancient history. The Minoans were not simply a people of myth and legend. They were pioneers of a maritime empire that connected cultures across the Mediterranean. They laid the foundations for the artistic and cultural developments of later civilizations, especially the Mycenaeans, who would go on to influence the development of classical Greece. The Minoans' advances in art, architecture, and engineering were centuries ahead of their time, and their influence can still be seen in the ruins they left behind, from the massive palace complexes like Knossos to their intricate frescoes depicting the vibrant world of the Minoans. Perhaps one of the greatest mysteries of the Minoan civilization is its language. Linear A, their written script, remains undeciphered, adding an enigmatic layer to the story of a civilization that, in many ways, remains just out of reach of modern understanding. What secrets lay hidden in their texts, and how might they have further shaped their society? The fall of the Minoan civilization, brought on by a combination of natural disasters, invasion, and internal collapse, serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of even the most prosperous and powerful societies. Though they were ultimately absorbed into the Mycenaean world, the Minoans left a cultural imprint that shaped the course of ancient Mediterranean history. Their civilization may have ended, but its influence endured in the civilizations that followed. In many ways, the Minoans were ahead of their time, a people whose achievements still echo in the modern world. From their mastery of trade and art to their architectural wonders and intricate religious practices, they stand as a testament to human ingenuity and the enduring power of culture. Their story may have ended, but their legacy remains immortal in the sands of Crete, waiting to be rediscovered by the next generation of explorers. As we continue to uncover their secrets, the Minoan civilization reminds us of the timeless nature of human creativity, resilience, and the pursuit of knowledge. And thus, the mystery goes on. Thank you for listening. If you liked this, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Don't forget to watch that recommended video for you for more mysteries to uncover. We shall see you in our next session of The Forbidden Codex of History.